sex, drugs, and rock and roll and that nonsense. Well, you see what we end up with now. It's AIDS, all different kind of, sexual disease and stuff. Treat yourself like an animal. It's going to come back and get you.
What was the attitude in Vietnam when that whole music started coming out?
Well, some guys were into it, and a lot of guys just took it as music. We didn't even understand what some of the words meant, what they were even talking about. But when you got into the music and understand, for instance, Strawberry Fields Forever by the Beatles, that was just drugs. That's all that was about. Puff the Magic Dragon, you know, the magic, that's what that was. It's all about drugs. It was all about rebellion, you know, you can't tell me what to do, you know, that kind of thing. And see, here's another thing. You have a right to be stupid, but you also have the obligation to take responsibility for it, too. Suffer the consequences. Everybody wants to have their rights and no consequences. That's not how the world works. You have the right to be stupid. You have to accept the consequences when they come at you. Somebody raised a hand. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that your faith helped you along the way when you were in Vietnam?
That was my anchor. That was my anchor. I mean, you have solid rock and you have people who live on shifting sands. If you're anchored in solid rock, yeah, the storms get wild and even scary sometimes, but if your anchor holds, your faith will bring you back. And yeah, it did drift, but you come back to it. You realize, you look back over your life and you think, boy, that was pretty stupid. Why did I sidetrack myself? And nobody sidetracked me, I did it myself. I had to get back on track. And that's what I'm saying, your faith has a big thing on it. It'll be your anchor.
Where did your faith come from?
Brought up with it. Family, grandfathers, great-grandfather. Yep, they were. You know, who was it? Pogo or somebody that said America was great because America's good. And if America ever ceases to be good, she'll cease to be great. Back then, when I was growing up, everybody, a lot of the social practices were around the church. My grandmothers, they belonged to the Dorcas Society. That was a church mission. We had Wednesday night prayer meeting. There's always something going on at the church during the week besides Sunday in those days. So a lot of that, of course, was the influence. And you will be influenced by something, right? You either be influenced by good or influenced by evil. You'll be influenced by light or darkness. Something's going to influence you. So when you say, well, I don't need that, well, then you're being influenced by something else. People say, well, I'm in the middle. There's no such thing as middle ground, kids. That's just a figment of people's imagination. There's right and there's wrong. There's God and there's Satan. There's heaven and there's hell. There's victory and there's defeat. Where's the compromise? Where's the compromise? There isn't one. Yes?
Can you maybe speak on what the Legion and VFW, like kind of what the programs they do are, just a little bit, what that looks like? I don't know how familiar they might be with the organization.
American Legion, basically, we promote veterans' causes. We also have we're authorized by Congress, okay? Most VFW, American Legion, these things are authorized by Congress, so we have to go by certain bylaws. Which reminds me, Mr. Brandstad and I, we have to get the serial numbers down to our rifles because we have to report those to the National Armory in Illinois every 3 years. We have delegates in Washington fighting for veterans' causes. Fortunately, regardless of, I'm not saying President Trump is the perfect guy, I mean nobody's perfect, but he is big on the veterans' causes and you can get things done that way. And also outreach programs, just like here at the schools. We're going to do this one. We have the Oratorical Sunday. I'm going to be at Homer, what's the 8th? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, be at Homer. Also with the Veterans Day. We also do 9/11. We promote the 9/11. We have what they call retirement ceremony for the flags. We burn the flags properly. People bring us old worn out flags and we have what we call flag retirement. We usually do that on 9/11, yes.
Where is that usually?
Right at the Freedom Park. And we bury the ashes for the flag at the Freedom Park. There's a special place for the flag. Sometimes if you want, we'll bring in a couple of veterans, we'll show you how to properly fold and display the flag. How's that sound?
That'd be great.
We do those kind of programs all the time, you know?
That'd be great.
And we just did that when? Over at Lewis and Clark School over here.
Okay.
We got a program, helped, maybe there's some kids who thinking about military as a career, or at least something to, you know, I'm gonna tell you right now, the military is different than when I was in. When I was in, they needed foot soldiers, all right? Today, with technology, you go into certain fields now, keep in mind, the military is hands-on. It isn't just book learning. You don't go out into a shop and work on it, you actually go out into the field where it's actually happening, and you work on things, you program things, you repair things. And that's why when you come back, when you hitches up, and you want to go back into civilian life, they look at that record and say, we want this guy, we want this girl. You know? Because it's all hands-on. I mean, obviously you'll study first, but then you go out in the field and you do hands-on. And it's a good place to college. You know, college, that's a big debt thing too, isn't it? And you're looking at a pretty tall expense. Now, I'm kind of a big believer in community college, you know, for trades and that kind of thing. But nevertheless, you get your college while you're in the military. They also have sign-on bonuses. That's something you could squirrel away for a rainy day. Military for anybody. Probably one of the places I would look if I was a young person today. I'd give it a lot of consideration. Even now, even on combat, see, everything in combat supports the foot soldier. Because any time in war, you can have all the, you know, the computerization, the technology, the satellite communication. But without somebody on the ground to hold the ground. So everything in the military is coordinated toward the foot soldier. Mr. Branstad's going to be here. He was Navy. He was what they call the Airedales. They did the aircraft carriers. You know, believe me, I was in the Army. We called in what we called a broken arrow. You know what that is? It's when an American combat unit is being overrun. And they call in for all available fire support. And the Navy showed up with 3 F-4 Phantoms and rescued me. Believe me, that was the prettiest thing I ever saw in my life when I saw them things banking off coming in. So, thanks to guys like Mr. Bronstad. You know, we have another one, Post Commander in Jackson, Mr. Rasmussen. He worked on helicopters. He was just as important as the foot soldier because the helicopter was the workhorse. And a helicopter, how many people know that a helicopter and a bumblebee have something in common? Mathematically, neither one of them can fly. That's right. So it took us 50,000 years to figure out how God did it, but we did it. But they required a lot of maintenance because of it. And if those choppers stopped coming, we were in trouble. That was our lifeline. Support, yes.
When you were over there, did you believe in the fight while you were fighting?
Yes, I did. If we're going to do it right, and finish it. We had the war won. All they had to do was let us finish it.
Why do you think the war wasn't won?
It was lost here, like I said earlier, it was lost here at home. People back here, the war dragged on. We had too many, again, leadership. McNamara, he was the Secretary of State back then under Lyndon Johnson. And they tried to micromanage all that from Washington instead of letting the generals and letting the sergeants and letting the troops do the job in the first place. The war shouldn't have lasted that long. It should have been over with in 4 years. It should have been all done. They went in first combat, actual combat was in 65. Should have been done by 1969 or 70. Should have been done. Instead of playing games, you know. Well, we can't do this. We're trying to show the people, like a war of attrition, we're trying to show the people we're on their side. Half the people we're dealing with are Viet Cong sympathizers. You can't tell one from another. First minute, they could be out there in their rice paddies with their, harvesting their rice, and then pick up a weapon and start shooting at you. That's what we were up against. Yes.
Did that ever happen? Somebody be working in a rice paddy and just pick up a gun
Yep.
on you?
Several times. We always were on the lookout for that. We were always also one of the most terrible things. Again, the Viet Cong are like the Taliban. They have no conscience. They would take young children, 5, 6, 7 years. Us guys, we're sucker for little girls, you know. So they bring up a strap the explosives around her. She'd come up there, and of course, them cowards, they'd sit down there and wait till they got close enough and set her off. And kill 5, 6, 7 GIs right there. And we always had care packages, so we had candy bars and stuff like that we used to give to the kids. So you always had to be careful of that. And what the media would do is, you only have to have them once. The next little girl that comes up there, pour the rifle down onto her, and you went over there and you forced her to strip naked, just to make sure. Now the media takes a picture of that and makes us look like the bad guys. See how that works? Picking on some poor little girl. We're just trying to keep everybody safe. That's because they, as I say, they don't have a conscience. Those kind of people do not have consciences. That's what's supposed to separate us from the animals, right? See, I have a couple of little pet cats, and I enjoy those cats, right? But what does a cat do? A house cat? One of the few animals that kills for sport. They don't have a conscience. And they don't have the awareness. They don't know they live in Dakota City, Nebraska, or even if they're in the United States in the northern hemisphere of the earth. They have no conscience of that. They're just animals. They don't have a soul. And when people come to the point where they've hardened their heart to that point, how do you reach them? What they call radical Islam, these Muslims, and so on and so forth. And I'm not picking on all Muslims, just the radical ones. How do you reach those people? You don't. Sadly, the only way to do is take them out. Sad, and what's even more sad is another generation's coming up just like them. You're always going to be a bad guy. Like I say, we human beings, we don't have the power to arrest Satan and put him in jail, keep him. He's causing all this trouble, but we can't do that. We just have to live life in reality. That's the reality of life. There's always going to be a bad guy. There's always going to be somebody who's going to stick up the Casey's down here and try it. It's always going to be people that are nuts. It's like that clown in New York City. How do you stop those guys? When they're that hard, when their heart's that hardened, life doesn't mean anything. Just take a truck, drive over people, kill them. Actually, with that, I'm on President Trump's. I'm siding with him on that one too. He deserves a death sentence. He deserves to be put to death for it, not stuck in a hole somewhere. So, Americans, we're supposed to be united. All right. This is the United States of America, not the diversified state. We're the most diverse country in the world, and we always have been. The problem is assimilation and unity. We need to unite again as a, I don't care if you're Catholic, Baptist, what you are. We need to come together with take our diversity, come together with a common goal. And that common goal is liberty, freedom, the rights of men. When I say man, I mean generically. We're all mankind, right? Man, woman, child. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think people are inherently bad or inherently good? Or?
No, they're inherently innocent. See, when you're born, you're innocent. Okay? It's what happens after that. And there comes an age of accountability. I mean, a 5-year-old child's not going to really know the difference between right and wrong. You have to teach them, right?
Like, how does someone go down to, like, in your opinion, how does someone go down that path though?
They
Becoming
choose to.
bad.
Oh, well, if they're young and they're brought up around it, okay? But I've seen bad kids come from good families. I'm sure you have too. You know, mother and dad, the other 2 or 3 kids, they're great kids, great people, but there's that one that's just makes everybody else look bad in the family. That's a choice. You have choices, good or evil.
So how do we actively choose good?
Get around people that understand good, that can teach you good. And don't let them sit there and call you names, okay? And they call me names all the time, so. The big thing now is, what is it, gay? That, our nation, well, let me put it this way. Don't stop at Sodom and Gomorrah. Go to Corinth, Carthage, keep working your way, the Greeks, the Romans, Persians, Babylonians, Trojans, Spartans, they all went down this road. Sexual immorality. They all landed in the graveyard of the nations. Now, if you're going to take that lesson, what are you going to think? You really want to choose to do something that dumb? Because it is a choice. You may be tricked into it, but it is a choice to do good or evil, do right or wrong. We have gotten astray in this country with assigning human rights to human wrongs. See, I would no more support gay rights than I would support the reinstitution of slavery. They're both human wrongs. And both of them are destructive. If you did away with other moral crimes, and let's face it, you can legislate morality, because what is murder? Moral crime. What's bank robbery? It's a moral crime, isn't it? Now, if you just said, okay, you have the freedom to rob a bank, you realize the financial crisis would cause a nation or a neighborhood or anything? Or how about murder? You just kill anybody you want, there's no consequences.
Is morality not subjective though?
Yeah, but you also have to, morality versus immorality. There's a lot of immoral things that people we pass off as, okay, they can slide with it, but a lot of things can be subjective, but there's also a right and wrong. Yes?
Building off of that, like, obviously America's built on freedom. Do you think people should have the freedom to like choose wrong then? Like, do you respect that choice, or would you rather
Well,
have regulation on the bad?
but on the other hand, there's this thing called responsibility, as I said earlier. You want to go down that road, you have the freedom to do that, but you better be ready to accept the consequences that come with it. See, that's what they want to do whatever they want without consequences. They think consequences is just something people make up. As I said, all these other countries have gone to the graveyard of the nations. Now, who put them there?
Hey,
God will not be mocked. Keep that in mind.
I think we might need to conclude. Thank you for coming in. We really appreciate hearing your story.
Okay,
Absolutely, thank you very much.
you bet, you bet. So.